Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It's Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190, where we interview local prominent professionals here in the beautiful Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex on what? Well, their area of expertise, of course. I'm the host of the show, Matt Cather, and joining me on today's Ask the Experts, it's great to have him back. It's Josh Strittmatter of Strittmatter Wealth Management Group. Josh Strittmatter is the founder and president of Strittmatter Wealth Management Group, a registered investment advisor located in downtown Fort Worth, Texas. Josh is a certified financial planner and fiduciary that's been practicing since 2003 here in the DFW. His firm specializes in retirement planning, estate planning, and investment management. And all information discussed in today's program is meant to be educational only. And for more information, including key disclosures, please visit their website at strittmatterwealth.com. Folks, let me spell that out to you real quick. It's STRITTMATTER wealth.com. Josh, how's it going?
Matt, everything is great. How about you?
I'm doing really well, man. It's great to talk to you. And as always, Josh, I know we have a jam-packed show, but before we get started, I know that you love to educate and that you're always teaching classes and writing articles. So before we get things kicked off, why don't you tell our listeners what you have for them today?
Absolutely, man. I'm always excited to talk about what we do from an education standpoint, and we've been teaching classes at several colleges in the area for over a decade now. So if you're interested in learning more about retirement planning or investing, just go to our website to sign up. Something also that I'm excited about is a report that we've published called the Top 10 Retirement Mistakes to Avoid This Year. Now, this is a great resource for people who are looking to retire in the near future, and they're just looking for some good tips and some things to avoid.
That's right, folks, and all you need to do to request this resource is just go to strittmatterwealth.com. That's strittmatterwealth.com. You click on resources and free report. You can also email them at info@strittmatterwealth.com. That's info@strittmatterwealth.com. Or simply just give them a call. They love to hear from you. It's 817-210-3444. That's 817-210-3444. And all my texters out there, we don't forget about you. Don't worry. Just text 1190 a.m. to phone number 44222. Just text 1190 a.m. to phone number 44222. All right, Josh, I know this week you have geared your show around a theme. Why don't you tell our listeners more about the theme for this week?
Matt, this week's theme is on estate planning and specifically choosing an executor. So these are some great questions that we've received around choosing an executor.
All right, perfect. This is Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. We're talking with Josh Strittmatter of Strittmatter Wealth Management Group today in regards to estate planning, choosing an executor. Let's not waste any more time. First questions coming out of the great city of Fort Worth, where Strittmatter Wealth Management is located. Well, Lonnie from Fort Worth asks, what is an executor, Josh?
So, Lonnie, an executor of an estate is an individual appointed to administer the last will and testament of the deceased person. And the executor's main duty is to carry out the instructions to manage the affairs and the wishes of the deceased. And so it's that person that you name that will carry out the terms of your will.
All right, well, moving right along, it's coming out of Grand Prairie. Clint asks, what does the executor of my estate do? That's a great question.
Yeah, Clint. So the executor is responsible for making sure that all the assets in the will are accounted for, along with transferring these assets to the correct parties. Assets can include all your financial holdings, stocks, bonds, things like that. And then they also have to estimate the value of the estate by using either the date of death value or the alternative valuation date, which is an IRS valuation that's used. They also need to ensure that all the debt of the deceased is paid off, including the taxes. So it's their obligation to make sure that all debt is paid according to the wishes of the deceased. Beyond that, it's just making sure that the estate gets wrapped up efficiently and done correctly, and then closes the estate.
This one's going to be coming out of Weatherford, Josh. It's from Rodolfo. Rodolfo asks, is there anything the executor of my estate should know before I pass?
Rodolfo, yeah, there's a lot of things that an executor should be prepared for. Just to name a few, the first one might be disputes with co-executors. And so oftentimes, as an example, parents will name their children as co-executors, or each of the children will be serving as an executor. Oftentimes that can create some problems just because there might be disputes between all of those different co-executors working on the same estate. And so maybe better just to have one executor, but certainly talk to your legal counsel about that. And then also disputes with heirs is another big one. So obviously when somebody dies and there is a large estate or even a smaller estate that's going to occur, there's a lot of people who think that they're owed something, and the person who's died may disagree. And so disputes with heirs on who gets what. Oftentimes, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Matt, but when somebody dies in your family, everybody rushes onto the house and kind of takes whatever they want.
Yeah.
And so you have to be careful with that because there are things that may be given to somebody via the will that is not yours. And so, disputes with heirs is a big one. Also, it's a time drain. So if you've ever served as an executor, it really can take a lot of time to do all the things that we've talked about so far. And so just think about, all the different agencies you have to contact, Social Security to get a death benefit as an example, the IRS to file taxes. So just a lot of time consumption used to be the executor. And then beyond that, also personal liability exposure. That's often a question that comes up. And, typically you're protected depending on, if you do everything on the F and up, I should say. So, yeah, you just need to know that you have to follow the letter of the law. And then other than that, out-of-pocket costs, I think, is something else that you may be subject to. And of course, those would be reimbursed to you from the estate.
Yeah, unfortunately, some of these situations tend to get a little ugly, but I guess it's part of it, right?
It's part of it, and that's why a good plan is always more beneficial than not having anything at all.
Absolutely. And guys, remember, we're talking with Josh Stripmatter Wealth Management Group today in regards to estate planning, choosing an executor. If you want to reach out to them for their services, you can find them online first at stripmatterwealth.com. That's stripmatterwealth.com. Give them a call. They'd love to hear from you, even if it's just asking a couple questions, picking their brain. 817-210-3444. That's 817-210-3444. Moving right along here on Ask the Experts. The next question's coming out of Colleyville from Terry. Terry asks, what happens if you do not want to be the executor of an estate?
So, Terry, when you are named an executor of an estate, that's done through the will. And then you actually have to be appointed by the court to act as the executor. And so you can actually decide or decline not to take on that responsibility. And in doing so, the court would then go to the backup executor that's named in the will, if there is one, or that they would appoint somebody to serve in that role, what they call a personal representative of the estate. So you don't have you don't have to do it, but keep in mind that it's something I always tell our clients is that when you're naming an executor, that you probably want to have a conversation with them ahead of time, just so that they know that that's something that you're doing, number one, but also what to expect from that as well. And that way, if they say, I don't want to do that, you're not wasting time naming them, and you can go find somebody else. And by the way, you don't have to name your relatives. You can name professionals like attorneys, or a lot of times a CPA can act as an executor as well. So you can name other people that aren't family related to serve in that role as well.
We got a quick break coming up here on Ask the Experts, but we got one more question before we get to that break. Fort Worth, Claire asks, do estate executors get paid?
Claire, they often do. And so depending on how your estate is settled, the Texas Estates Code has a standard compensation of 5% commission on all amounts that the executor or administrator receives or pays out in cash in the administration of the estate. So you can obviously also negotiate or put in the will what the compensation will be to the executor. So you can name what the executor will get paid. And this is what I think about the subject is, if you're going to name me for a job, and that job's going to take significant amount of time and effort, you probably want to compensate that person just simply because, nobody wants to work for free. And, the exception to that is when you're the beneficiary too, and you're going to receive everything, right? But certainly if you're working on behalf of other people and sorting out a large estate, it makes a lot of sense to make sure that they're paid.
All right, folks, we got to take a quick break here on Ask the Experts. When we get back, we'll pick up where we left off. We got a lot of information to still get into with Josh Strittmatter of Strittmatter Wealth Management Group. So stay tuned. This is Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. We'll be right back after the break. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. It is Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. We interview local prominent professionals here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex on their area of expertise. We're talking with Josh Strittmatter of Strittmatter Wealth Management Group today in regards to estate planning, choosing an executor. Always great to have him on the show. Always great information he brings to the show, so we appreciate him for that. Let's get right back to work and jump into these questions. Next one is coming from Norma in Lake Worth. Norma asks, does my executor need to hire a lawyer, Josh?
So, Norma, when you have a will, and that will has to go through the probate court in Texas, they will require you to hire an attorney to basically make sure that you are doing the job correctly, especially where there are beneficiaries involved that are not you. Now, if you're the sole beneficiary, then most likely not. You can just do it on your own, but specifically where you are probating the estate and you're serving as that executor, that's a fiduciary duty. And so because you're managing the affairs of the estate and then distributing that estate, that's where the court will require you to hire the attorney, which is another reason why people will often use a trust, by the way. Matt, is that with a trust you can often distribute an estate outside of the probate process, and that's a topic for another day. But to probate in Texas, you have to have an attorney.
Fantastic. Moving along, Kelly from Aledo asks, can my executor get help from someone else besides a lawyer? I really like this question.
Kelly, there's lots of resources out there, sure. So that the court clerk is often a great source for information. They don't obviously want to offer you advice. The other professionals, people like your CPA, your estate planners, your financial planners, such as myself, can offer some information. Obviously, we don't offer legal advice, but we can offer some great information. And then there's also non-lawyer document preparers, so they call them legal document preparation people. These are basically paralegals who prepare documents. They too don't provide advice. And then lots of books out there. I've read several books over the years. One book in particular is called The Executor's Guide. I think it's by Mary Randolph, if I remember correctly, and that's a good book to take a look at if you're serving as an executor. So there's definitely lots of resources out there for you.
Remember, folks, we're talking with Josh Strittmatter of Strittmatter Wealth Management Group. StrittmatterWealth.com is the website you can find them at. And more importantly, you can give them a call. It's 817-210-3444. It's 817-210-3444. Their office is located in downtown Fort Worth, Texas. All right, Josh, this one's actually coming out of Fort Worth as well. It's from Dolores. Dolores asks, what can my family do if they think my executor is cheating me? Wow.
Yeah, Dolores, good question. Well, so I think that the first thing that should be done is to request the inventory and the appraisal. That can be requested by any of the family members to determine exactly what's being distributed to the estate. That would be the first place to start. Beyond that, you can ask the court to remove the executor. And so this is often a kind of a last-ditch effort there is to replace that executor. So you do have some options. And, I think, again, talking to an attorney might be the first place to start, just to make sure that you are not being cheated.
Folks, we got a couple more questions here on the show before we got to wrap things up, but we'll continue to move right along. This is a pretty important question coming from a Brandy in Dallas. I like it. Are there any requirements to be an executor of an estate in Texas, Josh?
So, Brandy, there are some requirements. Texas law requires that the person be 18 years old, of sound mind, not have been convicted of a felony, and not have a conflict of interest. If the executor is not a Texas resident, then they'll need to appoint a resident agent who can accept legal papers on behalf of the estate. And a corporation can be appointed as the executor as long as it's authorized to act as a fiduciary in Texas. And most often the executor is a spouse, an adult child, or another close family member. So just depending on your situation, will depend upon who you choose, obviously. But, those are the requirements, Brandy.
All right, Josh. Well, we're coming up towards the end of the show. Last but not least, of course, important question here. Leah from Arlington asks, well, how can Strip Matter Wealth help me with choosing an executor?
So, Leah, here's what I think about when we help people with estate planning. Oftentimes, the financial planner knows everything about the client. So we're very familiar with their overall situation. We're familiar with their family members. So we're in a unique position to talk to them about who might serve in that capacity for them and serve in their best interest. And so I think that's one of the unique advantages of being a financial planner is we just have a pretty good overall idea of the client situation. Beyond that, we can help talk about the different strategies that are available to you, even beyond the will. So it's looking at the overall estate plan as a whole. And then, of course, we work with lots of attorneys in the area to help draft the documents, to provide the legal advice that you would need. So what we do from an estate planning perspective is we basically help that process along and make sure everything is done correctly, and that we work with your attorney, or if you don't have an attorney, we have our attorneys. And at the end of the day, the end result is to have your plan in place and to make sure it's set up correctly and it's what you want, and so that you don't have to worry about it anymore. And Leah, that's how we can help you.
Unfortunately, Josh, that's all the time we got for questions today. Before we close out the show, do you have any closing remarks for our listeners out there?
Absolutely, Matt. I want to thank our listeners for their great questions and for tuning in today, as always. And I want to invite them to sign up for our financial education classes, or they're welcome just to schedule a complimentary consultation. And what that looks like is a 1 to 2 hour meeting in our office where we talk about your goals and objectives and help you to begin to formulate a plan to achieve them. I also want to encourage our listeners to download our free report titled The Top 10 Retirement Mistakes to Avoid This Year. Matt, that's, again, just a great report for people who are retiring in the near future, and they're looking for some great tips, some great things to avoid.
Yeah, and if you want to request that resource, remember, all you got to do is just go to stripmatterwealth.com. I'll spell that out one more time before we wrap things up. It's STRITTMATTER wealth.com. You click on resources and free report. Just go to stripmatterwealth.com and click on resources and free report. There's also a couple other options. You can email them as well at info@stripmatterwealth.com. That's info@stripmatterwealth.com. Give them a call, 817-210-3444. That's 817-210-3444. A great number to reach them at, and they'd love to hear from you. And more importantly, all my texters out there like myself, you could text 1190 AM to phone number 44222. Just text 1190 AM to phone number 44222. All right, Josh, well, another show in the books. We did it, and always great to have you on, and I look forward to what we have in store on the next show.
Thanks, Matt.
Always a pleasure. We'll talk to you soon, Josh. Well, another great show, of course. Don't expect anything less. As always, we always have a great time with him and a lot of information. You've been listening to Josh Stripmatter, owner of Stripmatter Wealth Management Group, located in downtown Fort Worth, Texas. Josh is a certified financial planner and fiduciary, and his firm specializes in retirement planning, estate planning, and investment management, folks. If you'd like to ask him questions directly, just email him at info@stripmatterwealth.com. or give him a call, 817-210-3444. It's 817-210-3444. All right, well, we got to get out of here on Ask the Expert. It's always a pleasure to have Josh Stripmatter on. We'll do it again with him very soon. You best believe that. But until then, it's been another edition of Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. I'm the host of the show, Matt Cather. Enjoy your day, folks, and we'll talk to you very soon.